Hey, everybody, this is Victoria, and welcome back to the podcast. This week, we're going to start something a little bit different. It's a 3-part series called Open the Windows, and I'm going to offer you a spring reset for your mind and your life. And listen, it's not going to be a deep dive. This is not a heavy teaching. It's not something that requires you to take notes or figure everything out or go get the download. None of that. It's just really a gentle reset. I have been struggling so much with my thoughts lately. As I'm writing the devotional, the Sacred Thinking devotional, I try to pull so many personal stories out of my life, put those into words and stick them in the Devo because I know that's important to you and it's relatable. And right now I'm coming down on the last 5 weeks of the devotional. If you can believe that, it's a 14-week devotional. So it all strikes so close to where I am. If you think that I just write these devotionals and I podcast because I've already arrived, you would be sorely mistaken. I have a long way to go, and I'm just like you are, trying very hard to keep a close watch on one of the devotional weeks. The focus areas is discernment, and that's really about your awareness and recognizing what you're thinking about. But it also has to do with some of the cognitive distortion and traps we may find ourselves falling into. And for me, I can do mind reading so easily. I can just imagine what I think someone else is thinking about me. And it is so toxic to go there. Learning to not do that has been so powerful in my life. Another thing is expectations. I can have all these unspoken expectations, say for Jim, he's not even aware of them. And then when he doesn't meet my unspoken expectations, then I feel disappointed and I'm snappy and angry at him. Isn't that unfair? It is so cray cray, as one of my kids always said. It's just cray cray. It's really off base. But for now, I just want to do something so simple, and it reminds me of the springtime. It's a gentle reset. So over the next few episodes, I want to invite you to open the windows of your life, of your brain, of your mind, and take a fresh look at what you've been holding on to. It might be in your thoughts, in your heart, and even in your everyday rhythms. Because sometimes the shift that you need the most is simply letting in some fresh air. And that's why we're going to use our windows as an analogy. I just finished not too long ago a 2-part series over bringing the outdoors in and using nature therapy to help you do a quick thought reset. But here we're going to just do something so simple. When is the last time you've actually opened the windows in your house? I mean, really open them, not just for a second or something like that, but open them wide enough to feel the breeze, to hear the birds, to let the air move through and to change the atmosphere of your home. I have 3 big, huge windows open right now. One is actually a door, like the back door, the storm door. That screen is fully open, the window's down, and the air is just wafting in downstairs. I've got 2 windows open upstairs, one in my office, which means it might be a little noisy today when I'm recording, but I just heard an airplane go by, for example, but I hear the birds. I can actually feel the breeze. I can see it moving things in my office, little sticky notes, my hair even. It's just coming through because it's so breezy outside. And there's just something about fresh air. It clears out what's been being still or sitting still. It shifts the feeling of a space altogether, and it brings a kind of lightness that you didn't even realize was missing. And the truth is, we just don't need to do this in our homes from time to time. And I try to do it every day in the spring and summer when I can. But we also need to do this in our minds because there are thoughts that we hold on to, sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks, sometimes much longer than we realize. And let me tell you, depending on what those thoughts are, it could really lead you to unhealthy places. Maybe it's a conversation that you're replaying, some sort of disappointment that you keep revisiting over and over and over again. It's like you're ruminating on that. Maybe it's something that someone said to you or something they didn't say to you. I recently received a text from a friend. I had invited her to go do something with me, and her response was, "No, but thanks for asking." That's all she said. And it really threw me into a loop, and I started mind reading, like I was talking about a moment ago. And I'm like, good gravy. She doesn't even want to be with me. She doesn't really like me. She, 1,000 things, what I think she might have been thinking, which was so contrary to the truth. And so I went on a little bit of an investigative mode, fact-finding mode, just to help me, which is, by the way, a little tip that you and I can do to become more discerning and to stop those runaway thoughts that we may have that lead us to no good places when we start mind reading and stuff like that. Fact-finding and just saying, oh, hey, sorry, your response really kind of caught me off guard. Is everything okay? Something like that, to be honest and truthful in that relationship. Because otherwise I would have been thinking about it over and over and over again and returning to it and ruminating on it. Not because I want to feel stuck, right? And I know you don't either, but it's because our minds are trying to make sense of something that just happened. We want clarity of thought. And if we feel a little unsettled or uncertain about it, our minds will keep churning until we give it an answer. And often the answer that we provide is not actually fact-based or evidence-based or truthful. And there's a little bit of brain science here to help you understand what's actually going on, because your brain is designed for efficiency, basically. Efficiency, quickness, comfort. It wants ease. It creates pathways based on what you think about most often. And that's where the efficiency comes. That's where the ease is. It's like a little smooth groove that your brain gets into. It loves that. So when a thought gets repeated, especially one that's tied to emotion like sadness, disappointment, anger, unforgiveness, all of that, your brain says, oh, this thought must be really important. And so what does it do? It brings it right back to the forefront, not to frustrate you, but to reinforce what your brain believes that matters most to you, which means sometimes the very thoughts you're most tired of are the ones that your brain has simply practiced the most times. But here's the gentle shift that I want to offer you today. You don't have to hold on to every thought that comes to your mind. Just because a thought returns doesn't mean it needs to stay. Scripture reminds us of this so beautifully in Philippians 4:8, one of our ministry theme verses. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, right, pure, lovely, and admirable, anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. That's not a command to strive harder. It's simply a gentle invitation to redirect your attention, to notice what your mind has been holding on to, and to begin choosing something different, something light, something airy, something fresh. I was thinking about this the other day, even how easy it is to carry something mentally without even realizing how very heavy it's become. And you know what? We get used to it. It becomes a part of the background of our brains and our minds and what's going on, like a room that hasn't had fresh air in a while. You don't always notice it at first until something shifts, until, say, you open a window and suddenly everything feels different. Matter of fact, right when I opened my windows, I took a deep breath. I'm like, oh my goodness, the air smells so fresh. It smells so clean. I love to hear the birds. I love to feel it against my skin. Something just felt different. It felt better. And that's what can happen also in your mind when you release what you've been carrying or holding on to so tightly. And I'm preaching to myself right here, because it's something I desperately need to do, especially in terms of people pleasing and always wondering what someone's thinking about me and ruminating and concluding things that are negative. I have these negative narratives going on in my mind that are so far from God's truth. And I'm learning in time to stop those, to halt those, to apply that choose framework. Remember that? The choose framework, so that I can live my best thought life. I want to look at briefly at Hannah in the Bible. She'd been carrying something for a long time. It was her barrenness. She couldn't have children. And her husband, Elkanah, had two wives. Hannah was one of them, and Peninnah was the other. And year after year, Hannah went to the temple. Year after year, she faced the same ache, the same disappointment, the same unanswered longing to have children. And not only that, she was being provoked by her husband's other wife. Can you even imagine that? Peninnah. And because Peninnah reminded Hannah again and again of the fact that Hannah did not have any children. And this was a terrible disgrace at that time. You can imagine the thoughts that followed Hannah or that rippled through her brain. Why not me? Will this ever change? Has God forgotten me? And she carried those thoughts, not just for a moment, but over time. And they kind of became the background of, the backdrop of her mental landscape. Have you ever been there? Have you found yourself stuck in these toxic thought loops? Why not me? Why is this always happening to me? Has God forgotten about me? Doesn't really see me? Will it always be this way? Those kinds of thoughts. Well, for Hannah, something shifted because scripture tells us that she goes before the Lord and she pours out her soul. She speaks honestly to the Lord, and finally, she simply releases what she had been holding on to. And then something very subtle but very powerful happens. It's recorded in 1 Samuel, this whole story, 118, and it says, her face was no longer downcast. Isn't that an amazing thought? Is your face downcast these days? Maybe you just need to open the windows, let the fresh air in, and release everything that you've been holding on to, those thoughts, those toxic thought loops, all the rumination, all the mind reading, all the cognitive distortions that you've been engaging. You may not even have been thinking about them, but maybe it's time to lay them down, to let them go. Hannah's circumstances did not change. They hadn't changed, not yet. But what she was carrying she released it. She let go of the outcome. She gave it up to God. She didn't solve her situation in that moment, but she opened the window of her heart and allowed or let something shift. Sometimes you and I stay in a toxic thought loop, not because we want to, but because we haven't brought it fully into the light and the air and the very breath of God. So today I want to give you something so simple, nothing complicated, nothing overwhelming, just a small intentional step. At some point today, I want to challenge you. Look, it's springtime in Kentucky. I want you to actually open a window. And look, it doesn't have to be the window of your house. Do it in your car. Put the windows down and let your hair blow. I promise you, you're going to feel differently after that. And let that be your physical reminder to open all the windows of your heart and just release what you've been holding inside there that may not be taking you or leading you in a godly direction. And as you do this, ask yourself one question. What have I been holding on to that I can release? Not fix it, not solve it, not figure it out completely. Your brain loves to do all those things too, but just to release it. Maybe it's that thought you've been replaying. Maybe it's something you wish you had done differently. Maybe it's something you wish had gone differently. Maybe it's a quiet frustration or this kind of nagging, lingering disappointment. You don't have to carry it the way you've been carrying it. And this matters more than you might think, because what you continue to hold on to is what continues to shape your thinking, your mindset, your moods, and your emotions. And what shapes your thinking actually shapes the direction of your life and the choices that you may make moving forward. But remember, here's the hope. Change doesn't begin with doing everything differently. It begins with awareness, with noticing, and with one small shift. Sometimes peace doesn't come from adding more, right? But from letting something go. So next time on part 2, we're going to talk about something that's just as important. And it's those subtle thoughts that sit in the background, the ones you stop noticing maybe, but that are quietly shaping the way you feel and respond every day. More on that next week. But until then, take a deep breath, open the window, and let something shift literally in your heart and in your mind today. I love you so much. God bless you. And thank you for listening.